It almost felt like a bit of a secret weapon. Some of the lessons that I did, I'd get immediate speed and efficiency improvements in the next speed sessions. Hi, my name's Rowe Palmer. I'm a running enthusiast.
Are you an armchair running enthusiast?
No, very active, probably borderline addict. If a day doesn't involve a run, it's not a good start to the day, I should put it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's not a good day, but I certainly feel better with a run at the start, and the better the run, the better the day.
Oh, that's great. And so before you started working with me, what were you struggling with? What led you to the balanced runner?
So I got into running regular running in my 20s, just for fitness. And in my 30s, my partner got quite seriously into running before I did. So I started running marathons, and I somehow got pulled along into getting involved in the training. And when I started doing a few races, I noticed the 10K race in particular, my hip flexor seemed to be the limiting factor. And then later on, I did a marathon, and the same thing. It was by the end of the marathon, felt like I was dragging my right leg over the line and couldn't I guess get the speed that I wanted to. So I isolated that as one of the things that I wanted to be able to resolve. And I believe I did some searching for what you can do about tight hip flexors and came across stretching. And then I believe I came across either a resource of yours on the tight hip flexor. I can't remember the sequence because I know later on I definitely came across your one where you essentially max out your hip flexor while you stop and you lift your leg in front of you. Or if I just saw that, I know early on I saw I think it's like the stretch, like the main stretch you should do or prior to doing running, which is the one on the stairs, getting ankle mobility. So I know early on I started doing that quite regularly. And it was just the fact that there was a difference of philosophy. Everyone else was just like stretch harder. I didn't have any other alternatives that came to mind. The running coaches that part of the running group that we're a part of, they didn't really have any great advice. It was just more about doing drills and stretching. And I just felt like there would be a better way. And it appeared from looking at your website that you were suggesting alternate ways of actually improving the movement. So I guess the long story short, or short story long, is that hip flexor was really the starting point. And that got me to do the boot camp. And in the boot camp, good outcomes in terms of speed improvement as well. And just generally how I felt about running and felt during runs, just felt better. And so that got me started. And that was the first start. And that was prior to my second marathon. And I continued on with the masterclass to try and get more advantage of what I'd experienced in the boot camp. And I did that all throughout that marathon campaign. And that was in 2016. And it almost felt like a bit of a secret weapon. Some of the lessons that I did, I'd get immediate speed and efficiency improvements in the next speed sessions, and quite quickly moved well beyond the pack that I was running with and to the next pack, and started feeling quite good about running.
And you got those orthotics while you were training for your second marathon, is that right?
Yeah, very early. I had some orthotics prior to that, but they weren't athletic type ones, which I quickly realized when I ramped up my kilometers, but then went and saw a sports podiatrist, and he just, as they do, immediately said orthotics are the way, and plonked them in. And that was from the beginning of that marathon training period. So I successfully completed the marathon. I ended up I found out after the marathon that I had a stress fracture in my distal tibia.
And we ended up seeing a relationship between, again, the difference between right and left in the orthotics and the way it caused you to run, and the tibia stress fracture is my recollection. And we've done a lot of work since then to try and undo the movement habits you built around those orthotics.
Yeah, very much so.
Right.
It took me many many years to keep on trying to build back up after that stretch fracture had healed. And I think a lot of my conditioning had fallen away, and I kept on ramping up way too quickly. So I ended up with a number of series of different injuries or things that stopped me from running anyway. I know the master classes were helping. I know I was starting to work out after that 4 cycles of ramping up to way too far a distance, too long a distance, too quickly, that I was probably over ramping up way too quickly. And yeah, I guess I just started feeling like I just needed some kind of guidance from someone that understood the running, but also running technique, and also a broader perspective of that type of lifestyle. And certainly balanced runner, ethos of being able to run continuously for life. That's where I wanted to get to, not just focus on speed, which is obviously what was getting me into trouble, but also how do I just run continuously so I can enjoy that and not have those periods where I replaced it with going to the gym. And that's where, when I contacted you to do the one-on-one, and so when we had our first meeting, you'd gone through my history, which gave me insights in just doing that history. There was a fairly obvious correlation between how hard I was going and when these injuries were occurring. But you actually then went and distilled the patterns of these kind of issues, taking into account other information about my running and running, what shoes I run in, the fact that I was running in orthotics, and I guess distilled down to a easily understandable level what it is that we would need to do, I guess, is to resolve the cause of these issues. And you managed to simplify that in a way that was easy to understand, and just made it very focused to what we needed to do, beginning with moving from orthotics, having a plan of at least a year to transition into zero drop shoes and start incorporating barefoot running, but also then the sequence of lessons started from the lower part of the body upwards, and start to get some immediate improvements and then just build on those over time. And my aim being to run continuously, that was achieved, and I've run continuously ever since we started, and also enjoy the running a lot more and feel like that the fun aspect of fluid running, which I hadn't consistently been able to experience for quite a while. So it really brought back the fun that I like to do. And I've been able to run continuously the whole time. I did have a couple of niggles, which I contacted you to give advice on, and almost amazingly resolved in a very short time. One of them on a trail running holiday, which is what me and my partner think of as fun, where we wanted to be able to run at least six days a week so that we can experience the sites that we'd planned. Ended up with what you diagnosed as a Morton's neuroma, and I had no idea what it was. And immediately you said, that sounds like a Morton. Here's a lesson to look at for that, and also explain the mechanics of where that comes from, and the fact that what I'm naturally doing to resolve that issue and resist the pain is probably the thing that's stopping it from getting better. And after a week and a half, that I almost forgot that I had that issue. And I had actually done my own Google doctoring, and was almost thinking that it was going to stop me from being able to do regular running for a very long period of time, or at least be running in with some level of discomfort. So that was resolved really quickly. And also I experienced a calf strain, and I've had one of those previously, and with physio's advice, I was out for 2 months after talking with you. It was resolved in a couple of days this time. So pretty happy with that.
Great. Yeah. When you look at the body, how the body works together, and how you're creating a pattern of stress in an area with your whole body, and then you change your whole body movement to remove that stress, then things can get better amazingly fast. Not always, but very often, and the experiences like you had. So that's great. you were on quite the holiday at that time. So I'm really glad it all worked out.
Yeah, we managed to do six months continuous running and we live in a very, very flat city, so there's not much elevation, but we actually managed to get to daily elevation. So we were loading ourselves pretty well, but we also learned to listen to our bodies a lot better, particularly me, and that comes a lot from talking to you as well.
And that, of course, is all stuff that you were looking for and hoping to get from the balanced runner. Did you get anything that you hadn't expected that was a surprise to you?
Yeah, very much. I guess the transition away from orthotics, that was quite a significant thing. I don't know. I didn't realize how much of a mental crutch that had become, being told by someone that knows what they're talking about, saying that was required and would be required forever, to then move away from that. And not only that, but also to use with, I guess, less cushioning, lower drop, and then even probably more so the encouragement to do barefoot running and just even barefoot generally. That's changed, I guess, a lot of interesting our lifestyle and things that we do. So I encourage the rest of the family. My 4-year-old son, he's a barefoot kid as much as is allowed by society. And my wife is a lot of the time as well. And yeah, but I guess it helps. It's another way of enjoying just simple things like going for a walk or going on a trail, is to be able to actually feel what's underfoot. So that's been a big part of it. And I guess even an extension of that and other things we've talked about have led to just a greater awareness of what your body's doing and just how you're feeling. So it's not just the running itself, but how's the body feeling in between? Do you need more recovery time? We've focused a lot more on diet and we're trying to refine what makes us feel better when we do running. So I guess it's just made us focus more on ourselves, whereas previously I guess we were using running for fitness and we had goals, but it was sort of slotted in as a part of the fast, rat race type thing. It was just something we did during the day, whereas now it's actually a bit more of a primary aspect of what we do and our identities, and then that helps, permeates into the other parts of our life as well.
Oh, nice. That's great. It's really nice to hear about those changes.
Yeah, I recommend to anyone that at the end of the day, if you can't run continuously in an uninterrupted way, like through training programs or just through day-to-day desire to go for runs, then you're not going to be able to fully experience what you're setting after. So you really got to, I'd highly recommend that people look into the ways of improving their movement, because that helps achieve that aim. And Feldenkrais has been particularly like a revelation to me. It's not something I'd ever heard of before. If someone previously told me that a good way of improving your technique would be to do a lesson indoors, sometimes lying on the ground, sometimes sitting down, but certainly not on a track and not running, I probably would have laughed at them. But the Feldenkrais approach really works quite well for these technique improvements. And even I've since got into parkour, and I use the same philosophies for learning new movements there. And also for my young son, when I'm teaching him how to swim or to ride his bike, I use the same kind of learning through an experience, those philosophies, just because it's enjoyable and it's effective. And I guess to people that have hesitations, Feldenkrais is something you can do a lesson and you'll see the benefits from before to after, and then progressively coming runs over that next week or so. So you know that whether it works or not for you, but I found that it works extremely, very well.
Awesome. Great. Thank you very much.